As Kant is articulating his view, he describes his theory as a categorical imperative. This is a famous phrase that I want to explain to you. Kant distinguishes between commands or imperatives. Imperative is really just straight out of the Latin from a word that means to command. Commands, Kant says, can command either categorically or hypothetically. And moral imperatives, Kant says, command categorically. Now here's what he has in mind. A command is hypothetical when it's conditional on something. So, for example, there may be some rational demand on me that if I want to be in California tomorrow, I should get on a plane today. Okay. And so there may be a kind of hypothetical imperative in place, given my wants and goals and so on, for me to get on a plane today. That is, I have some rational obligation to get on the plane, given that, on the hypothesis that, on the condition that, I want to be in California tomorrow. Okay? But categorical imperatives are supposed to command, well, categorically, that is, unconditionally. That is, no matter what. And Kant thinks this is possible because morality for him is, of course, grounded in pure practical reason, and that's something that's common to every human being, and is independent of what my particular goals or desires or personality traits are, which, after all, have been shown by Kant to be irrelevant to morality. And so the demands of morality are supposed to command us all categorically. And so, for example, using the example from last time, if we are proposing to act in such a way as to make a lying promise to someone, well, the fact that that action fails the universalizability test means that it fails for everyone at all times. And so, in fact, the prohibition on lying is absolute. And the imperative on us not to lie commands us categorically not to lie at all times and places. Okay. Kant has several other formulations of his theory, of his categorical imperative. And this is actually a notorious bit of Kant scholarship, because these alternate formulations don't really seem to be equivalent to each other, despite Kant's insistence that they are. So the first formulation we looked at is sometimes called the formula of universal law, this idea that you must act in such a way that you can will the maximum of your action to be a universal law. The probably second most famous formulation goes like this: you must act so that you treat humanity, or people, whether in yourself or in another, never merely as a means, but also always as an end in themselves. Okay? People are ends. People have a kind of worth, a kind of inherent dignity. And if you use them merely as means to your ends, then you are fundamentally abusing their worth or their dignity. Now, how exactly this theory is equivalent to the idea that the maxim of your action must be willable as universal law is certainly far from clear, and it's been the object of attack by people inclined to dismiss Kant, and of vigorous defense by those trying to save the view, and so on. We don't have to worry about those details. Just know that Kant has these different formulations of what he takes his moral theory to say. Okay, one more famous bit about Kant's theory and we'll be done. This universal feature of Kant's view, that morality will make these absolute demands upon us, was notorious even in Kant's day. And an early critic criticized Kant just along these very lines, criticizing Kant for holding to this extreme view that lying is always is impermissible. It's always wrong to lie. And this is often called the murderer at the door case. So this critic imagines an example where you are hiding someone in your house when an angry mob comes to your door with their pitchforks and their torches, and they say, "Have you seen so-and-so?" referring to the person who is in fact hiding in your house. And the critic says, "Look, Kant, if your theory is correct, then I have an obligation not to lie to these murderers who are at my door. And so I have to throw this person under the bus. I have to say, oh yes, I have seen this person. He's hiding in my house right over there." Right? When surely, the critic continues, surely that cannot be the right thing to do. Surely it is at least permissible for me to lie to the murderers at the door and say, no, I haven't seen that person. Now, Kant was not one to let challenges go unanswered, and he published a response. And in this response, he stuck to his guns. He said, no, you may not lie to those murderers at the door. So Kant really was insistent that these moral absolutes are indeed absolute, and that the rules that make up morality have to have this kind of universal character. And you can see why, I guess. The prohibition on lying is connected to the idea that when you lie, you treat the person to whom you're lying as a means to your end. That's one way of thinking about it. Or you're acting in such a way that you can't really will everyone to do, because if everyone lied all the time, that would destroy communication and so on. And those reasonings about why lying is impermissible seem to hold no matter the context. They seem to hold of every lie, everywhere and every time. And so they would hold in particular of the lie to the murderer at the door. Infamous result of Kant's theory. Okay, that's all I have to say about Kant. I hope this has been helpful as you try to make your way through the text. It's not an easy one at all.